I always thought that there was something wrong all along when it came to the story of Michael Oher and the Tuohy family. Now, back in 2009 rather, there was a movie that came out called The Blind Side starring Sandra Bullock, and it literally got so much praise, so much critical acclaim. A lot of people went to go see it. I'm under the minority of those who did not see it, and I had no interest in seeing it. It looked like it was good, but then I heard stories over the years saying that this story wasn't true. But I said, you know, that's Hollywood for you. A lot of stories can get embellished, and we've seen that many times over. But this one took embellishment to astronomical levels, ones that give credence to the white savior trope. Because when I really saw this movie for what it was, I said, this is nothing more than a white savior flick. But according to this new information that has come out, it's gone beyond just the white savior trope. This link was just a straight up all around the world in 80 days and back lie. So I'm going to be reading this article that's coming from ESPN, and it says blind side subject or Michael Oher, who was the one standing there in the middle. Tuohy's made millions off of a lie. Retired NFL star Michael Oher, whose supposed adoption out of grinding poverty by a wealthy white family was immortalized in the 2009 movie The Blind Side, petitioned a Tennessee court Monday with allegations that a central element of the story was a lie concocted by the family to enrich itself at his expense. The 14-page petition filed in Shelby County, Tennessee probate court alleges that Sean and Leigh Anne Tuohy, who took Oher into their home as a high school student, never adopted him. Instead, less than 3 months after Oher turned 18 in 2004, the petition says the couple tricked him into signing a document making them his conservators, which gave them legal authority to make business deals in his name. And for those of y'all who don't know what the definition of a conservatorship is, a conservatorship is a court order that appoints someone to oversee the financial affairs of a minor or a person who is incapacitated. A guardianship typically involves the appointment of someone to manage the medical and physical care of a person with limited capacity or a minor. For those of y'all who didn't know what this definition was before, you probably heard the word, especially when it was attached to Britney Spears. As y'all know, Britney Spears was in a conservatorship by her father for many years because they basically said she was not well enough to take care of her finances, and she just got out of the conservatorship, I think, last year. But based on her antics right now, I think I can see why her father had her in that conservatorship, because she put off this thing like she was trapped and everything like that. But if you look at her antics over the last couple of months, I think we see why her father had her there, but she's out of it now. So I don't know if they can put her back under it, but basically that's what she was under for a number of years. The petition further alleges that the Tuohys used their power as conservators to strike a deal that paid them and their two birth children millions of dollars in royalties from an Oscar-winning film that earned more than $300 million, while Oher got nothing for a story that would not have existed without him. In the years since, the Tuohys have continued calling the 37-year-old Oher their adopted son and have used that assertion to promote their foundation, as well as Leigh Anne Tuohy's work as an author and motivational speaker. That is really messed up. That is really messed up. The lie of Michael's adoption is one upon which co-conservators Leigh Anne Tuohy and Sean Tuohy have enriched themselves at the expense of their ward, the undersigned Michael Oher, of the legal filing says. Michael Oher discovered this lie to his chagrin and embarrassment in February of 2023, when he learned that the conservatorship to which he consented on the basis that doing so would make him a member of the Tuohy family, in fact, provided him no familiar relationship with the Tuohys. So he just learned of this conservatorship this year, from a conservatorship that they put him under back in 2004. Like, really think about how long ago that was. That was 19, almost 20 years ago. And he just learned in February that it was a conservatorship and not an adoption. And you know, if you look back, Michael Oher was kind of speaking out here and there since the movie's release about some shady stuff going on, but this is about as shady as it gets. And I'm glad they put that in there, because a lot of people are under the assumption that he knew, or he's only doing this because he didn't get any money from this. No, he honestly did not know that's what he was under. They said they were using him for their own personal gain to get millions of dollars, and he got left with pretty much nothing. Everyone in that family, the husband, and this, by the way, that's Leigh Anne, and that's her husband Sean, and they also had 2 children. They had gotten everything off of this. He got nothing, but the story, like he said, would have been nothing without him, and that's true. The story would not have been nothing without him, because I'm gonna be honest, who knew who the hell the Tuohys were? People knew who Michael Oher was, but no one knew who they were. So they did this to get into the spotlight, and it worked, unfortunately. The Tuohy family did not immediately return phone calls Monday to numbers listed for them. Oher's petition asked the court to end the Tuohy conservatorship and to issue an injunction barring them from using his name and likeness. It also seeks a full accounting of the money that Tuohy's earned using Oher's name, and to have the couple pay him his fair share of profits, as well as unspecified compensatory and punitive damages. Since at least August of 2004, conservatives have allowed Michael specifically, and the public generally, to believe that conservatives adopted Michael and have used that untruth to gain financial advantages for themselves and the foundations which they own or which they exercise control. The petition says, all monies made in said manner should in all conscience and equity be disgorged and paid over to the said ward, who was Michael Oher. Oher was a rising high school senior when he signed the conservatorship papers, and he has written that the Tuohys told him that there was essentially no difference between adoption and conservatorship. So they was basically playing on the fact that he was young and didn't know any better. That's literally what they played on, and it worked like a charm for them. They explained to me that it pretty much means the same exact thing as adoptive parents, but that the laws were just written in a way that took my age into account, Oher wrote in his 2011 best-selling memoir, I Beat the Odds. But there are some important legal distinctions. If Oher had been adopted by the Tuohys, he would have been a legal member of their family and would have retained power to handle his own financial affairs. Under the conservatorship, Oher surrendered that authority to the Tuohys, even though he was a legal adult with no known physical or psychological disabilities. The petition alleges that the Tuohys began negotiating a movie deal about their relationship with Oher shortly after the 2006 release of the book The Blind Side: Evolution of a Game, which chronicled the story. According to the legal filing, the movie paid the Tuohys and their 2 birth children each $225,000. So that was over $1 million that went to 4 people, just 4 people, whose story means nothing without the person that they tricked. Plus 2.5% of the film's defined net proceeds. The movie became a critically acclaimed blockbuster, reportedly grossing more than $300 million at the box office and tens of millions of dollars more in home video sales. The film received an Oscar nomination for Best Picture, and Sandra Bullock won a Best Actress award for her portrayal of Leigh Anne Tuohy. While the deal allowed the Tuohys to profit from the film, the petition alleges a separate 2007 contract purportedly signed by Oher appears to give away to 20th Century Fox Studios the life rights to his stories without any payment whatsoever. The filing says Oher has no recollection of signing that contract, and even if he did, no one explained its implications to him. And that was the point. They explained it falsely because they had a plan. This was a plan. And the scary part about it is, if it wasn't Michael Oher, who else could it have been? He was the perfect setup for them. The deal lists all 4 Tuohy members as having the same representative at creative artist agencies, the petition says, but Oher's agent, who would receive movie contract and payment notices, is listed as Deborah Brannon, a close family friend of the Tuohys and the same lawyer who filed the 2004 conservatorship petition, the petition alleges. Brannon did not return a call to her law office on Monday. In the past, the Tuohys have denied making much money from the movie, saying they received a flat fee for the story and did not reap any of the movie's profits, and what they did earn, they added, was shared with Oher. We divided it 5 ways, the Tuohys wrote in their 2010 book In a Heartbeat, Sharing the Power of Cheerful Giving. Oher's court petition says he never received any money from the movie, even though he long suspected that others were profiting, according to his attorney J. Gerard Stranch IV. Whenever Oher asked questions, he did not get straight answers. And since the film's success coincided with the start of his lucrative NFL career in 2009, Oher did not take the time to fully investigate the deal until after he retired in 2016, Strange said. Oher eventually hired a lawyer who helped him uncover the deal surrounding the movie deal and his legal connection to the people he believed were his adoptive parents. His lawyer unearthed the conservatorship document in February, and Oher came to the painful realization that the Tuohys had not adopted him. Mike didn't grow up with a stable family life, Strange said. When the Tuohy family told Mike they loved him and wanted to adopt him, it filled a void that had been with him his entire life. Discovering that he wasn't actually adopted devastated Mike and wounded him deeply. The petition marks a sharp break in what had been an inspiring, if unsettling, stereotypical feel-good story. As the movie portrayed the story, the Tuohys adopted Oher, a poor, virtually homeless, and academically challenged black teenager. They made Oher part of the functional family for the first time. They helped him catch up in school, taught him the basics of football and how to harness his athleticism, putting him on the road to sports stardom, which basically all boils down to white saviorism. The truth, however, was more complicated. Oher certainly led a hard knock life growing up, but he also had the smarts, the pluck, and plenty of help from the Tuohys and others to rise above his circumstances. Oher was one of 12 children born to his mother, who struggled with drug addiction. Before his 11th birthday, Oher was placed into foster care, where he bounced around numerous homes and at times lived on the streets. Although he was a capable student, he had attended 11 schools in 9 years and repeated both the first and second grades, leaving him behind academically. His fortunes changed after a friend's father impressed the Oher's inner drive and focus, introduced him to the principal of a private Christian school in a prosperous Memphis neighborhood. Oher began attending the school in 10th grade, even as his home life remained chaotic. He was a sports prodigy, excelling in track and field, basketball, football, a game he had studied for years. He began playing football for his new school in 11th grade, quickly establishing himself as one of the nation's top offensive linemen, and college scholarship offers poured in from big-time football programs across the country. Because of his unstable housing situation, Oher frequently stayed over at the homes of his classmates, including the Tuohys, whose children attended the school. The petition says that the Tuohys forged a closer relationship with him once Oher's athletic prowess drew wide attention. They invited him to spend more nights at their spacious Memphis home and took him shopping. Eventually, they asked Oher to move in. They encouraged him to address them as mom and dad and said they planned to adopt him, the filing says. Oher was delighted with all that at the time, his lawyer said, and he fully trusted the Tuohys. Oher went on to play college football at the University of Mississippi, the Tuohys' alma mater. He was a two-time All-American and a first-round pick for the Baltimore Ravens in 2009. After the success of The Blind Side, however, suspicion slowly eclipsed Oher's trust of the Tuohys, his lawyer said. Mike's relationship with the Tuohy family started to decline when he discovered that he was portrayed in the movie as unintelligent. Their relationship continued to deteriorate as he learned that he was the only member of the family not receiving royalty checks from the movie, and it was permanently fractured when he realized he wasn't adopted and a part of the family at all. For years, Oher had chafed at how The Blind Side depicted him, saying it hurt his football career and clouded how people viewed him. He has said that based on the film, some NFL decision makers assumed he was mentally slow or lacked leadership skills. People look at me and they take things away from me because of a movie, Oher told ESPN in 2015. They don't really see the skills and the kind of player that I am. For their part, the Tuohys agreed that Oher always had what it took to succeed. If there is a fundamental misapprehension about Michael, it is that he needed saving, the Tuohys wrote in their book. Saving. He needed saving. And they did it for their own personal gain. Not for him, but for themselves. And look at how he was portrayed in the movie. That's probably another reason I didn't watch it. We discovered that underneath his shyness, his foot shuffling, and his head ducking, he had a tremendous will to determine the course of his own life. For years, Oher has said that he was content to live with the myth created by the movie, reasoning that its inspirational message outweighed the pain inflicted by what he saw as its inaccurate portrayal of his life. But that has changed. There has been so much created from The Blind Side that I am grateful for, which is why you might find it as a shock that the experience surrounding the story has also been a large source of some of my deepest hurt and pain over the past 14 years. Oher wrote in his book, When Your Back is Against the Wall, released last week. Beyond the details of the deal, the politics, and the money behind the book and movie, it was the principle of the choices some people made that cut me the deepest. And that is the entire article right there. That was a very interesting story, and that is very messed up on this family to do what they did to this then 18-year-old. Like, literally tricked him into believing that they actually cared. But that's PC for you. When you go underneath the veil, that's how many of them be acting. Collectively, they had ulterior motives this whole time to basically get out of it what they wanted and what they desired, so to speak. And like, he got the short end of the deal, but I'm glad that he's speaking about it now. And the only reason he really speaking, the only reason he's speaking about it now is because he just learned about it. But he said he even had suspicions even after the movie came out, like, why was I portrayed this way? Because that's not who I am. But he probably had little to no say in the making of this movie. I wouldn't be surprised if they took all the reins and just said, hey, we're going to be making this movie, and it's going to be about us taking you in, and you know, it's going to be great. It's going to be phenomenal. You know, the car salesman pitch, or the elevator pitch, however they call it. It's just messed up all the way around that this family actually did that to him at the end of the day. But we can't be too trusting of everybody. But they took advantage of his situation, of him being in the position that he was in. You know, it says that he grew up, he's one of 11 children. You know, he came from a rough life. That was perfect for them. That was spot on for them. It's like, for them, Michael Oher was like catching lightning in the bottle. He was the lightning rod that landed in their bottle. And they made sure to put that lid on airtight to make sure it didn't bounce out of the bottle and go elsewhere. That was perfect for them. They have to be, in my opinion, held accountable for what they did. And I hope they don't get a moment's rest. I hope that there are reporters lined up in and around their block. I hope their neighbors are being disturbed by what they did with this story now recently coming out. But one of the biggest questions I have is this: will Sandra Bullock have to rescind her Oscar? Now, granted, all she did was make the movie. All she did was play the part. She could only go off of what they provided to her. She was probably just as ironically blindsided by this as Michael Oher was. All she did was play the part. Now, my thing is this: will she have to give back her Oscar for playing a role of a character that is just as fake in that script as she is in real life? That's how I see Leigh Anne Tuohy. That woman and her husband are faker than a $3 bill and a Monopoly board game set. But I also would like to know, what does Sandra Bullock actually think about this? Now, I can't find anything that says, or she's given any statements about what has happened. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't give one, but if she did, I would be curious to know what she actually had to say. And I personally wouldn't address Leigh Anne. Well, probably she should, considering that's the character that she played, but I feel like she should also address Michael Oher as well, because at the end of the day, that family is messed up. All of them. They just are. Well, their parents, I would say it like that, because when it's talking about their kids, I believe their kids were minors at the time, so they wouldn't really know anything about it either. They probably just thought, you know, everything was good. Who knows what kind of lies they told their kids? They benefit off this man's story. He gets nothing. You had people go watch this movie literally bawling their eyes out and think it's one of the best movies they've ever seen, one of the best stories ever told, and the whole story is a lie. The whole thing is a lie. And it wins an Oscar. Amazing. But then it also, again, goes back to the definition of the white savior. In film, the white savior is a cinematic trope in which a white character rescues people of color. In this, I don't like that term, but that's what they say. Well, we're going to say black, because in this movie, Michael Oher is black. A black person from their plight. The white savior is portrayed as messianic, and often learns messianic, and often learns something about themselves in the process of said rescuing. And we've seen that trope play out in so many films. So many films. I'm not going to list all of them, but I'm sure by me saying so many films, at least 3 pop up in your head. That's not even this movie. But I knew that white savior complex was in that movie when I first saw the trailer. And I was like, oh, it's another one of those movies. And mind you, The Blind Side came out in 2009 when I was 20. And I knew it then. That was 14 years ago. I knew it then. What they were doing. And now that all of this is coming out, yeah, that's basically what it was. It was a combination of, we're going to play up this thing of, we saved this big black guy from himself in the situations that he was in, but we're going to take it a step further. We're going to say we adopted him when we really didn't, put him under a conservatorship, and then we're going to turn this thing into a story, and story is going to turn into a movie, and we're going to reap all the benefits from it, and he's not going to get a thing. Like I said, that Tuohy family had this trick up their sleeve from the day they laid eyes on Michael Oher and learned of his situation. And that husband and that wife went into their little lab, rubbed their hands like Birdman, and went to work. And it paid off for them. I don't even know how they can even sleep at night, but I guess when you are robbing and thieving from a person that was completely oblivious to what you were doing, I guess it's very easy to sleep well at night and not toss and turn. So some more recent developments have come out involving this Tuohy family, and it was posted August 15, 2023. Of course, the first part that I talked about was posted a couple days prior to this, and I had to make sure to incorporate this in. It says the Blind Side family's lavish lifestyle, including rides on private jets and luxury trips. Let's see what they're talking about. The Blind Side family, who adopted, quote unquote, which they really didn't, Michael Oher, not only allegedly cut the ex-NFLer out of a multi-million-dollar paycheck they got from the blockbuster film, but also lavishly spent cash on private jets and pricey vacations while brazenly documenting the splurges on social media. Sean and Leigh Anne Tuohy, both 63, put their expensive trips on display on Instagram, where they've been photographed multiple times in front of a Cessna Citation Bravo private jet. According to aircraft charter company Desert Jet, a trip on the 7-seat jet runs travelers about $3,100 per hour. If the Tuohys purchased the plane, they could have spent upwards of $2 million depending on the model year. In other social media posts, Sean and Leigh Anne are seen enjoying a getaway in Park City, Utah. Leigh Anne tagged the photo's location as the St. Regis Deer Valley, a luxury ski resort where nightly rates average more than $1,000. More posts show her in her faraway places, like in Paris next to the Eiffel Tower, posing alongside Italy's Leaning Tower of Pisa, and with Sean in the Middle East. Just a few weeks ago, Leigh Anne filmed herself and a large group of friends getting off a party bus to see the Barbie movie, and in June, she captured Sean spending an afternoon zipping around in a red Ferrari. Elsewhere, Leigh Anne also appears to frequent Disney World with a slew of photos in front of Cinderella's castle in Magic Kingdom, from what appears to be at least 4 visits to the theme park in just the last 2 years. I don't know how many times one would have to go to Disney World that many times to realize not much will probably have changed in that short amount of time frame. The Tuohys, who were already millionaires before The Blind Side, have operated a regional fast food empire that comprised more than 100 locations that included Taco Bell's and KFC's, are now worth a combined $75 million. The couple resides in Memphis, Tennessee, where, according to the Memphis Business Journal, they own a total of 5 different properties in the Shelby County area. Oher reportedly lives with his family in Brentwood, Tennessee, and doesn't appear to have a relationship with the Tuohys. The former star offensive tackle does not have any photos of the Tuohys on his Instagram and does not follow any of his quote-unquote former family members either. A chunk of the Tuohy's wealth is from the success of The Blind Side, thanks to a deal Sean and Leigh Anne Tuohy struck with the film producers. According to bombshell court documents filed Monday, the Tuohys and their 2 biological children received royalties from the film due to the tune of $225,000 each, plus 2.5% of the movie's net proceeds, while Oher allegedly received 0. The recent legal filing also revealed that Sean and Leigh Anne never actually adopted Oher, instead having him sign a conservatorship that allowed the Tuohys to legally conduct business in Oher's name. Oher, meanwhile, uses his Instagram to promote his business ventures, including his latest book, When Your Back is Against the Wall, which details his experience emerging from poverty to getting married and having 4 children. The Blind Side went on to gross $309 million and won Sandra Bullock an Academy Award for Best Actress for her performance. So as you can see, they've been splurging like crazy on his expense. Like I said, this is very, I don't know what to say. Like, these two right here, Sean and Leigh Anne Tuohy, are an absolute disgrace, to say the least. And that might even be an understatement. It's messed up what they did to Michael Oher, and quite honestly what they did to the viewing public, because they basically put out a sham of a life to make themselves appear nice. But that's why I told you, I just felt something wasn't right about this movie. I always kind of look at these white savior movies with the side eye, and this is a perfect example as to why I believe that is.